Today we cut through illusions and confront a question that men have asked for centuries. Why do women desire men they cannot control? This is not a riddle of romance. It is a study of power. And to uncover the truth, we will walk alongside the master of power himself, Machiavelli. Machiavelli taught that human beings, stripped of polite masks, crave power, security, and dominance. He insisted that appearances conceal true motives. People speak of virtue, but they obey strength. They praise freedom, yet they kneel before authority. This is the law of human nature, and nowhere is it clearer than in the relations between men and women. When a woman seeks a man, she is not seeking a servant. She is not looking for one she can manipulate like a puppet. Desire does not ignite when she rules. It ignites when she feels the presence of strength. A man she cannot control awakens something deeper than comfort. He awakens respect, fear, and longing. This is Machiavellian truth. People secretly despise what they control, but they desire what they cannot dominate. Consider the logic. If she controls him, she owns him. If she owns him, he has no power beyond her whim. And what value lies in a possession you already dominate? None. Desire feeds on resistance, on challenge, on the spark of danger. Machiavelli himself wrote that men admire those who resist them more than those who yield. It is the resistance that proves strength. In relationships, this law repeats with unrelenting force. A man who bends to every demand, who obeys out of fear of losing her, transforms himself into the very thing she cannot respect, a tool, predictable and weak. Women do not dream of weak tools. They dream of kings, conquerors, men who bend the world to their will. This is not romance. This is biology, psychology and strategy interwoven. Machiavelli warned rulers never to be despised. The same principle applies here. A man who becomes predictable, who allows himself to be ruled, becomes despised. His efforts to please transform into chains of slavery. She may use him, but she will never burn for him. The fire of desire survives only when she senses she cannot fully grasp him, cannot fully command him. Now listen carefully. This does not mean cruelty. It does not mean tyranny. Machiavelli did not advise rulers to mindlessly oppress. He advised them to remain above control, to wield power with intelligence. Likewise, a man need not be harsh to be desired. He must only remain unconquerable. A fortress that invites entry is no fortress. A king who kneels ceases to be a king. Why do women test men? Why do they challenge, provoke, and push? Machiavelli would answer, it is the eternal test of strength. People test rulers to see if they can be broken. Women test men for the same reason. If he breaks, she owns him, and the game ends. If he does not, he owns her. The man who remains calm under trial, unshaken, is the man she cannot control, and that is the man she desires. This truth explains the paradox men stumble over. They ask, why do women chase the cold, the unavailable, the untamed? The answer is Machiavellian. Power draws desire. Just as people respect rulers who do not beg for loyalty but command it, women respect men who do not beg for love but command it through strength. Understand, control is the death of passion. When she knows every move, when she can bend him like clay, she feels nothing. But when he resists, when his mind is his own, when his will remains beyond her grasp, she feels the flame. Women desire not the man they control, but the man they cannot. Machiavelli revealed that fear and respect bind people more deeply than love. In love, people betray. In respect, they remain loyal. Women, too, seek respect in the man they choose. Not respect she gives to him, but respect he demands simply by existing as untouchable. She cannot own him, and therefore she desires him. She cannot rule him, and therefore she follows him. This is why women lose interest in the obedient man. He gives too much, he bends too quickly, and he collapses under the illusion that submission breeds love. Machiavelli laughs from the grave. No one admires the servant, no one burns for the slave. They are used, not desired. To be desired, a man must rule himself first. He must master his emotions, his fears, his neediness. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, not the meek. Women, too, favor boldness, not weakness. She senses strength when he does not chase, when he does not beg, when he does not surrender his throne. Thus, the law becomes clear. Women desire men they cannot control because control destroys value, and resistance creates respect. The man who stands firm, who remains sovereign in spirit, awakens the deepest instincts of admiration. He becomes the king she dreams of, not the servant she uses. This is the Machiavellian secret, hidden in plain sight. Power attracts, weakness repels. Women, like all people, worship what they cannot command. The man who embodies this law lives not as prey but as ruler. Women desire men they cannot control because such men embody freedom. Freedom here means the ability to live without needing approval, without submitting to another's will. Machiavelli reminds us that people naturally resist domination. Even subjects under a prince secretly wish for independence. This principle applies to relationships as well. A man who refuses to be ruled carries a certain untouchable aura. His value does not depend on compliance, but on self-command. This is the essence of why women admire men they cannot bend. Submission kills desire. Domination by one party eventually breeds resentment in both. Freedom, however, sparks attraction because it proves strength. Think of the man who never explains himself excessively, who does not beg for understanding, who stands firm even when challenged. Such a man radiates independence. He becomes the figure who cannot be absorbed into another's orbit. That is magnetic, because desire thrives on mystery and defiance. Machiavelli insisted that rulers must avoid becoming despised or contemptible. Weakness brings contempt. In relationships, weakness shows itself in total submission, in the inability to resist pressure. A man who cannot resist loses respect. Women may use their influence to test, but deep down they want a man who holds firm. It is the paradox of human desire. We chase what eludes us, not what we control. If something lies fully within our grasp, its value diminishes. Machiavelli's insight into power echoes here. Power rests not in surrender, but in the ability to deny surrender. Power seduces. A man who withholds full compliance keeps his value intact. Notice this tension. If a man allows himself to be fully directed, he loses himself. If he refuses entirely, he risks alienation. The art lies in balance. Machiavelli often stressed that a prince must appear merciful but not weak, bold but not reckless. The same principle applies in attraction. The man must show warmth yet never collapse. Women desire men they cannot control because control removes mystery. Once mystery fades, desire follows it into the grave. Machiavelli understood that appearances, not mere reality, shape loyalty. In relationships, appearances of strength, self-possession, and independence are irresistible. A man who embodies them stands beyond the ordinary. This is why attempts to please at all costs fail. Excessive appeasement signals lack of inner strength. Machiavelli warns against generosity that ruins the giver. A ruler who spends all his wealth to appear generous soon becomes poor and despised. A man who spends all his willpower on appeasement soon becomes drained and disrespected. The principle is unchanging. The one who preserves his freedom commands desire. To be free is to refuse control, to maintain inner authority. Women sense this instinctively. They may test, they may challenge, but the attraction flows toward the man who cannot be conquered. That man remains both present and untouchable. Let us go deeper into Machiavelli's thought. He argued that men are ungrateful, fickle, deceivers by nature. Therefore, a ruler must not rely on their loyalty. Instead, he must rely on strength and necessity. Similarly, a man should not rely solely on affection to sustain desire. Affection changes. Respect for strength endures longer. This does not mean cruelty or tyranny. Machiavelli did not glorify aimless cruelty. He warned against actions that breed hatred. In relationships, tyranny kills connection. But firmness, independence, and self-command do the opposite. They breed respect. Respect then feeds desire, because desire seeks the strong, not the weak. Now imagine a scenario. Two men stand before a woman. One says, "I will do anything you ask, just don't leave me." The other says, "I walk my own path. If you wish to join me, walk beside me, but I will not surrender my course." Which man commands desire? The answer is clear. The first man dissolves himself into dependency. The second preserves his identity, his freedom, his mystery. Women desire the second because he reflects the eternal principle of strength. Machiavelli would recognize him as the figure who cannot be dominated. He becomes the prince of his own realm, not a subject in another's. The lesson is sharp. Do not collapse into control. Maintain independence of thought, of action, of will. Women respect men who cannot be owned. They respect men who remain sovereign, like Machiavelli's ideal prince, who holds power by strength and wisdom. Desire is bound to sovereignty, not servitude. Thus, the struggle between freedom and domination defines attraction. Women test because they seek proof of strength. When men stand firm, desire burns stronger. When men collapse, desire withers. Machiavelli's insights into politics echo in this private domain. Attraction follows power. Power follows independence. Independence resists control. In this segment, we see why women gravitate toward men they cannot control. Such men embody freedom, strength, and mystery. These qualities awaken desire, sustain respect, and prevent contempt. Machiavelli's timeless lesson shines clear. Sovereignty commands loyalty, in politics and in love. Machiavelli taught that power is never secure without constant vigilance. A prince cannot relax, because enemies always test his defenses. In relationships, women test men for the same reason. Attraction does not flow freely to the compliant. It flows to the man who resists, who cannot be overtaken without effort. Resistance sharpens desire. When something resists, it creates tension, and tension fuels pursuit. Machiavelli's world of politics mirrors this truth. A ruler who yields too easily loses his state. A man who yields too easily loses his value. The one who resists stands taller, more desirable, and more respected. Think of the word test. Women test not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Just as soldiers test the walls of a fortress, women test the spirit of a man. They want to know if he can withstand pressure. Failure signals weakness. Success reveals strength. Strength draws desire. Weakness repels it. Machiavelli said it is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Fear here does not mean terror in relationships, but respect. Respect comes from resistance. A man who cannot be easily swayed builds a foundation of respect. Once respect exists, love has a stronger soil to grow in. Let us explore this dynamic. A woman may demand, "Change this for me." If the man instantly complies, he sacrifices authority. If he always resists blindly, he becomes rigid and unbearable. The secret lies in selective resistance. Like Machiavelli's prince, he must know when to yield and when to refuse. The prince who never yields becomes hated. The man who never bends becomes cold. But the one who yields strategically, while preserving his sovereignty, becomes admired. His strength shows in refusal, his wisdom in occasional concession. This balance reflects Machiavelli's advice. The prince must appear merciful, yet never forfeit power. Women desire men they cannot control because such men pass the tests of strength. Each test confirms his sovereignty. Each resistance deepens his aura. He becomes not only attractive but reliable. Machiavelli argued that stability comes from force, not promises. In relationships, stability comes from character, not endless compliance. Consider what happens when a man refuses to be controlled. His refusal signals self-respect. Self-respect signals value. Value attracts desire. Desire, once awakened, burns stronger when it meets resistance. This is the paradox. Women press for control, but their true desire lies in the man who denies it. Let us connect this with Machiavelli's thought on fortune. He described fortune as a woman who favors the bold. She resists the timid and surrenders only to the daring. This metaphor exposes a truth about desire. Women admire boldness. They admire the man who dares to stand firm, who challenges, who resists control. When fortune resists, only the bold overcome her. When women test, only the strong command their respect. This is why Machiavelli described fortune as violent, needing to be dominated by force. In relationships, the man who resists timid submission mirrors that boldness. He captures attention by showing power in action. This does not mean cruelty or abuse. Machiavelli warned against cruelty that breeds hatred. He advised cruelty only when it secured order, and even then, applied swiftly and rarely. For men in relationships, this translates into firmness without malice, resistance without bitterness, strength without hostility. The balance sustains attraction without poisoning it. Now imagine again, one man bends at every demand, another resists intelligently. Which man becomes the source of lasting desire? The answer remains clear. The man who resists stands out. He is tested, he holds firm, and he becomes worthy of pursuit. His sovereignty makes him a prize, not a possession. This explains why women often lose interest in men who surrender themselves completely. When control is too easily given, desire collapses. Machiavelli's prince who gives away power invites invasion. The man who gives away his will invites contempt. Both fall because they fail to resist. Resistance preserves both power and attraction. Machiavelli emphasized appearance as much as reality. The prince must appear strong, even if he faces weakness. In the same way, a man must project independence, even when tested. Appearances guide perception, and perception drives desire. A man who appears sovereign becomes sovereign in the eyes of the woman. Women desire men they cannot control because resistance reflects strength. Strength signals security. Security nourishes attraction. Without resistance, there is no proof of power. Without proof of power, respect fades. Without respect, desire dies. The chain is unbreakable, and Machiavelli's insights illuminate every link within it. So we return to the principle. Resistance fuels desire. Women test because instinct demands it. Men who collapse fail the test. Men who resist wisely pass. Those who pass remain sovereign, admired, and desired. Those who fail sink into the shadow of contempt. Machiavelli's wisdom echoes through every test, every struggle, every attraction. Machiavelli understood that human nature never changes. Power and desire obey the same law. They flow toward strength, never weakness. Women desire men they cannot control because control destroys tension. Without tension, attraction fades. With resistance, tension grows. With growth, desire deepens. This is the hidden law of sovereignty. Think of sovereignty as the crown of the masculine spirit. A man's sovereignty is his refusal to surrender his essence. Just as the prince guards his state against foreign invaders, the man guards his will against being overtaken. The sovereign man remains whole. The controlled man dissolves into nothing. Machiavelli wrote that fortune rewards the bold. Fortune does not reward those who wait for permission. In the same way, women desire men who lead, not those who beg. Leadership demands courage. Courage demands risk. The man who risks losing approval in order to preserve sovereignty becomes unforgettable. He cannot be ignored. What is the ultimate attraction? It is not beauty. It is not wealth. It is not constant agreement. The ultimate attraction is power. Power is the ability to say no, the ability to resist, the ability to stand unshaken. When a woman sees this power, desire takes root and refuses to die. But beware, power must never turn into cruelty. Machiavelli warned that cruelty without purpose breeds hatred. Hatred is deadly. In relationships, cruelty without purpose breeds resentment. Resentment corrodes desire. The sovereign man must balance strength with wisdom, firmness with mercy. He resists control, but he does not seek destruction. Why is this balance so magnetic? Because it reflects the eternal struggle between order and chaos. Women, like fortune, resist domination. They press, they test, they challenge. The man who collapses shows no order. The tyrant who crushes without care shows no wisdom. The sovereign who resists with balance embodies both order and wisdom. Machiavelli's prince thrives by keeping power secure while appearing virtuous. The man thrives by keeping sovereignty secure while appearing attentive. This does not mean deceit. It means understanding perception. Appearances guide reality. A man who projects strength, who embodies self-respect, creates the perception of sovereignty. That perception shapes desire. Desire does not obey logic. It obeys instinct. Instinct seeks strength. Instinct resists weakness. Instinct admires sovereignty. This is why women desire men they cannot control. Control eliminates sovereignty. Resistance preserves it. The more sovereign the man appears, the more desire he awakens. The equation is absolute. Machiavelli urged rulers to rule fortune, not wait for her mercy. The sovereign man rules desire in the same way. He does not beg for affection. He does not grovel for attention. He commands respect by commanding himself. His sovereignty makes him untouchable, irresistible, unforgettable. He becomes the master of tension. Let us sharpen the conclusion. Women do not desire slaves, they desire rulers. Not rulers who dominate with cruelty, but rulers who resist with sovereignty. A ruler who governs himself attracts loyalty. A man who governs himself attracts desire. The controlled man is discarded. The sovereign man is desired forever. Picture two men. One gives up his will at the first demand. The other resists, holding firm with calm authority. The first loses desire, the second gains it. The first dissolves into contempt, the second grows into admiration. Women desire the second, because his sovereignty cannot be broken. The Machiavellian man understands this law. He refuses to surrender his sovereignty. He resists control without cruelty. He appears strong, balanced, and unshaken. Women test him, but he passes every test. Desire grows, respect deepens, and sovereignty remains intact. He embodies the prince in the realm of attraction. So why do women desire men they cannot control? Because such men embody strength. Strength fuels respect. Respect sustains desire. This is the cycle. This is the truth. This is Machiavelli's wisdom in action. To be sovereign is to be desired. To be controlled is to be forgotten. Remember the crown. Sovereignty is the crown of the masculine spirit. Guard it. Defend it. Refuse to surrender it. Just as the prince who surrenders his state loses everything, the man who surrenders his sovereignty loses desire. Women admire the sovereign man because he cannot be taken. He must be earned. This is why Machiavelli's thought still echoes today. Power and desire remain eternal twins. Women desire men who resist control because sovereignty is the highest proof of strength. Sovereignty cannot be begged for. Sovereignty cannot be bought. Sovereignty must be lived. Live sovereign and you will never be forgotten. Now join the brotherhood by subscribing to this channel. See you soon.